Golden Threads, welcome back. I am called today to talk about some techniques that I find really helpful. That was my elbow clicking. When I'm going through periods of acceleration, whether it be an emotional acceleration, like some difficult emotion, or if anything comes up I'm finding is kind of disturbing my peace, disturbing my equilibrium. We all have those days where there's just a little bit of a rumbling in our existence that creates some discomfort, maybe brings up some old emotions, some unhealed wounding, or you just having a day. Sometimes we say that, or I say, my personal belief is that I grow through pain. But that doesn't mean that I enjoy it, and it doesn't mean that I want to sit in it. And I have learned through a lot of difficult situations how to alchemize. I've learned that word late in the piece, but I've learned how to alchemize that into growth, so that rather than distracting myself away from the difficult feelings, getting really busy with work, getting really busy in active socializing, or all the different avoiding techniques that we can do, shopping, the things that take us out of the emotion briefly but don't actually heal the cause within. And the whole purpose, I believe, of the difficulty is for growth, is for learning, is for self-discovery. And I've found that the difficulties will come in. Like, it's not that I've found some kind of remote emotional island within that nothing can touch me, although that would be ideal. I instead have learned through this process, through this learning, how to make my life easier for myself by processing the things that are difficult instead of avoiding them. So this will resonate for you if you find yourself at a point where you're realizing the distractions don't work. They're costing money, they're costing time, they're costing happiness. And depending on the version of distraction that you might use, you might choose to numb things out. Gambling, alcohol, drugs, these things can really, really cause spiritual harm. They cause harm in your relationships. They lower your self-esteem. They lower your self-worth, which then calls in, I believe, more difficulty. And you feel that you're going down and down rather than able to bring yourself back up. So when you do get knocked a little off your pedestal, you can get up quite quickly if you have learned healthy ways of transmuting, alchemizing difficult emotions. If you go down that path of avoiding or numbing, it does get harder and harder. The lessons seem to get harder and harder, and the coping works less and less. This will resonate for you when you're ready for it to resonate for you. And don't beat yourself up if that's not today, because it'll come. And when it comes, it's a really amazing time. And the times that will come later, you will look back and you'll think how strong, how graceful, how well I'm coping in the world today using these new techniques. And they're quite simple techniques. And people talk all the time about grounding, and there are all sorts of different ways that you can ground. And there are grounding sheets that you can buy. I haven't, so I can't comment, but they're available. There are methods such as, one thing I really love to do is to go to bathe in salt water under the full moon, when it's full moon, or you could look up the various moon phases and their particular alignment in your birth chart. And to find your birth chart, you need to know your date of birth. It's helpful to know the time and the place. And then you can use AI to do this for you. It'll map out your birth chart, and then you can, from there, find out if there are things like the full moon that would be particularly empowering for you, or a crescent moon, or whatever it might be. The other thing I do for grounding is I listen sometimes to guided meditations, and the one in particular I really enjoy, you can hear the birds very active on the roof right now, is, can you hear that? Is the particular grounding meditation I listen to, she will talk through a process of imagining your root chakra as an actual root coming down from the base of your spine and burrowing down into the earth, and then energetically pulling on that in your mind's eye, and that creates the grounding gravitational pull, and you will literally feel the pull on your blood, on your intestines, she says even on your teeth. And it's true, and the mind is very powerful. And so I can do a meditation to ground, which I will do sometimes. As I've said, I bathe under the full moon in salt water for grounding. Another thing is to put your feet on the earth. So go to the beach, get your feet in the sand. If it's warm enough or you're brave enough, put your feet on the grass. I say brave enough, that sounded weird. It's winter in New Zealand. So it would be brave to, where I live, to go outside, particularly in the morning, and put your bare feet on the earth. But you might. If it's summer, particularly, you might. Another thing I do for grounding, and again, this is a visualization, but it ties also into my yoga practice, and I will visualize myself. I've recorded some videos, so as I'm talking, I'm going to put the video on, and I will, excuse the poor quality of yoga, I will imagine myself with roots growing down from my heels, down from my ankles, and rooting me to the earth. And then I will use that sense of groundedness to really move slowly, and the key is slowly, usually from a salutation pose into something like Warrior 3, where you're balancing on one leg. So it's a single leg balance. You could do that. You'll see from the video, you can see me anchoring down and moving slowly. Sometimes I do it even more slowly than this, but anchoring down and moving slowly and deliberately, and imagining that I'm rooted deeply to the earth. And that really helps my sense of groundedness. And what I find when I'm talking about groundedness, I'm talking about a calmed emotional state. So when I get into heightened emotion, stress, anxiety, it's really helpful. It slows me down. But also if I'm feeling low, if I'm feeling lacking energy, lacking confidence, that comes over me quite quickly sometimes, and it just grounds me in the present And I can remember for myself how grateful I am in this present. And that is another practice that I use as well. I find journaling grounds me. Free writing, getting the thoughts from my overthinking brain down onto paper, and usually some sort of inspiration will come out of what looks initially usually like utter drivel. It will usually, there will be something that I'll be like, oh my goodness, there it is. There's the answer. There's the nugget. There's the learning in this. This is what I come here to grow from. This is why I'm here. And when you have purpose in the difficulty itself manifests itself into something that's actually a gift. It sounds crazy, but it works. And when you can turn your difficult days into the biggest gifts, there's not much this world can bring to your doorstep that you will not make it through. I hope this has found you at a time when it's helpful. I really pray that that's true. Blessings. Please do share your feelings and your experiences and your grounding tips, because I'm always wanting to learn, and I am by no means even halfway through this journey, so God willing. So thank you, blessings.